Hi, my name is Nancy Love. This is in San Diego, California for the Planet Peace Project. It's interesting. I was looking at something, I was trying to find Revelation 11:18 today because it talks about how these are the end times and it is time to destroy. It is time to destroy those who have destroyed the earth. Climate change, pollution, overpopulation, greed and lust. These are the things that the good, the angels, I guess you could say, are coming to destroy. Um, and it's about time. Thank God, very literally, thank God that it is time to destroy those who have destroyed this paradise, this garden that could be Eden once more. But instead, I hit Revelation 18:11, and I found it very interesting because I was just proselytizing through text messages for the cause of um, goodness to some of my friends. It says, this is from BibleRef.com, BibleRef.com. So if you poke in Revelation 18:11, you'll get a fast. Oh no, I'm making a YouTube video. Um, sorry. um, it says, the merchants of the earth will weep and mourn over her because no one buys their cargo any longer. What they're talking about was the sudden fall of Babylon and how an entire system, not only that's called symbolism, it's not just referring to an individual community. It's talking about a whole system. It's talking about a whole nation. It's talking about a whole world, the New World Order type of thing, where people are corrupt. Systemic corruption is endemic. It's in the police forces, it's in the political systems, it is in the communities, it's in civil organizations, and so forth. So, rampant corruption, criminality that is supported by the very um, societal structures that should be preventing criminality are basically Babylon. So it says this is one of the most incredible things. I hope you check it out. It says, what does Revelation 18:11 mean? Chapter 17 discusses the fall of a religious Babylon, while this passage uses the same name for an ungodly political and economic system. When the city of Babylon, either a literal single city or a reference to an entire nation, or I'm adding this, an entire global system of economic and sociocultural corruption, collapses in sudden judgment, and it will, and it shall, and that comes soon. Oh boy, you have no idea how soon that collapse is coming. It means catastrophe for the wealthy rulers of the earth. Eat the rich. Merchants around the world, that was my addition. Enthusiastic edition. And I'm a vegan. Hey. Merchants around the world also mourn the fall of Babylon. What troubles them is the loss of a thriving market. Now that Babylon is just a pile of ashes, no one remains to purchase their goods. They mourn the loss of money more than they mourn the loss of life. They mourn the loss of money more than they mourn the loss of life. That reminds me of the neutron bomb developed by some governments. The neutron bomb was developed to destroy organic tissue, not buildings. Because after all, if you're going to invade a country, you don't want to hurt all the infrastructure that you're going to need once you take over. You just want to kill the people who built that infrastructure and maintained it until you got there to take over it, right? So the neutron bomb is right here mentioned in the Bible. It says, crass materialism characterizes them. Their main concern is the bottom line. The Apostle James addressed unscrupulous businessmen in his epistle, and Nancy Love addresses unscrupulous businessmen in this video right now. And you know who you are, and I know who you are. He wrote, come now, you rich, weep and howl. Come now, you rich, weep and howl. for the miseries that are coming upon you. Behold, the wages of the laborers who mowed your fields, which you kept back by fraud, are crying out against you, and the cries of the harvesters have reached the ears of the Lord of hosts. The cries of the harvesters have reached the ears of the Lord of hosts. You have lived on the earth in luxury and self-indulgence. You have fattened, I would add greed and lust, because greed and lust are the core basis of every problem on earth. Greed and lust in humanity, basis of all sin and pain and corruption in the world. Greed and lust. So Apostle James says, you have lived on the earth in luxury and in self-indulgence. In self-indulgence. That means your cocaine, your heroin, your stupidly rich houses, your ignorantly expensive clothing, all that garbage, fancy cars while people starve. Do you understand that 25,000 people starve to death every day, every 24 hours, and more than half of them are children, while people snort, $100 worth of cocaine up their noses or buy a $25,000 dress or a $100,000 car? What's wrong with humanity? Practically everything. So back to this text. You have lived on the earth in luxury and in self-indulgence. You have fattened your hearts in a day of slaughter. You have condemned and murdered the righteous person. You have condemned and murdered the righteous one. It says elsewhere in the Bible that in the end times, the bad will be called good, and the good will be called bad. The bad will be called good, and the good will be called bad. And it talks about the sin of bearing false witness against good. Because when bad people are starting to be revealed as what they are, and their facade of righteousness comes off, and they're revealed to be as corrupt, as sinful, as miserable, and as filthy, and as foul as they truly are, they cast aspersions on the character of the good, the handful of righteous ones who are still here. So that was from James 5:1-6. So it says here, the objects of James' accusations typify the merchants in the tribulation in Revelations 18:11. Whatever loss of life accompanies the fall of Babylon, these men are primarily grieved over their loss of money. So I'm bringing that to you because I think it's relevant. There are people who live their whole lives corrupted by the socio-cultural popular media presentation of life. One person rails against my use of the term value system because practically every time I talk to him, he's become less and less spiritual, even though that's his basis. But he's become more and more corrupted by the idea that he's got to be wealthy and he's got to have status and all kinds of silly things that adorn him, while in his heart he absolutely does know that humility and charity and service to others is the reason he's alive. But he thinks, the Hollywood mob is cool, and that is his biggest source of pain. He's always going to be tilting against the windmill of money, and he's never going to have enough. The greedy never have enough money. They will always want yours and more. But lastly, it says here something, the author of this particular article, it says, Revelation 18:9-20 reports the reactions of kings, merchants, and seafarers to the fall of Babylon, while the fall of religious Babylon in chapter 17 was unmourned. These men will passionately lament the demise of political Babylon. Ezekiel 26:15-21 records similar lamenting at the demise of Tyre. Related passages such as Revelation chapter 16 described the bowl judgments directed at the beast and his kingdom. Jesus warned about the folly of building one's life on material things instead of on the word of love. The folly of building one's life on material things instead of love. Matthew 6:19 through 24. Paul and James did the same thing. Says here in James and in Revelation, it reveals the destructive end of the beast and his followers at the return of Christ to the earth. A glorious angel announces the fall of Babylon. A glorious angel announces the fall of Babylon. Here used to name a dwelling place for demons and the source of corrupt commercialism. Another angel summons believers to get out of Babylon and avoid being caught up in the judgment of her sins. God is ready to punish for extensive wickedness. These are the end times. He promises to burn the city with fire. The kings of the earth mourn Babylon's demise, and they keep a safe distance from her as she burns. Merchants, too, weep because no one can purchase cargo from her and profit from selling her goods. Like the king, the merchant tries to put distance between themselves and this fall for fear of sharing the destructive fate. Their mourning is intense. They throw dust on their heads, weep, mourn, and lament. How quickly Babylon fell from prominence and prosperity to a wasteful state. A mighty angel announces Babylon's doom and desolation. The city that at once included renowned merchants deceived the nations and martyred believers, and I would add sold drugs, weapons, and slaves, and martyred believers, is now shattered into silence and desolation. A mighty angel announces the fall of Babylon. You gotta distance yourself from that destruction and pain. This is Nancy for the Planet Peace Project, and my very name is love.